Hey, friends, welcome to Redraw Your Path, a podcast where I share stories of people who have made big changes in their lives and forged their own unique paths. Guests talk about their moments of messiness, fear, and reframing on their way to where they are now. I'm Lindy Bilzen, and my goal is to inspire you about the shape your life could take. So let's get inspired. Hey, Lynn here. Today we're going to do something a little bit different again, which I'm really excited about. I know, I get excited about everything. I need to get some more adjectives, but I'm really thrilled about this. So today I'm going to cover a beginner's guide to redrawing your path. When you know that you're not on the right path, it can be really scary to make a decision to do something else. And to get on that right path, I've set up a beginner's guide to thinking about and helping you make those moves. So it can be scary to know that you want and need to do something else, but feeling like you're stuck in the choices you've made or in your situation, whether good or bad, whatever those choices were, they're your choices. But that stuckness doesn't ever feel good. I want you to know you're not stuck. Barring extreme conditions, you are not stuck in your current situation and you have options. There are many factors, obviously, but there are also many different ways that we can redraw our paths and take happiness into our own hands. So with this guide to redrawing your path, I hope to give you some tips and tools to getting there. Created 4 steps to redrawing your path. The first step is understand when your body is telling you that something must change. So what that might look like, you might have constant upset stomach. You might have headaches. You might have rumination, panic attacks. If there is a feeling that you just can't put your finger on, your body might be telling you that something needs to change. Every time I've redrawn my path, my body was the first to know, way ahead of my brain, way ahead of that powerful mind that I have. My body was always the first to know. So in college, I was having daily headaches and going through a bottle of ibuprofen every few days. My body was the first to know. 10 years ago, I was living in Boston. I was commuting 2.5 hours a day. And the panic attacks that I was having, those were my hints that something needed to change. And then I didn't listen. And eventually I had my first fibromyalgia flare up. And that was my answer, right? Like my body knew something needed to change. So that first step in the beginner's guide to redrawing your path is understand when your body is telling you that something needs to change. Step number 2 is listen for what you're being called towards. So really like tune into those feelings in your body. And to do this, some things I suggest are meditation, journaling, practicing breath work or yoga can be incredibly powerful. Building your mental fitness, really powerful. Really tuning into that inner sage within you. We all have an inner sage. Being able to tune into that through strong mental fitness is going to help you to listen for what you're being called towards. Another tip, change your scenery. Get out, travel, go to a cafe, really create space for yourself. So that might be getting out of the country. That might be spending the day at a coffee shop, really being intentional, spending time with your journal. Or space might look like leaving your current job and something big like that. Sometimes we don't know or we don't have the space to listen to what we're called towards if something else is taking up so much space in our lives. Maybe you're going on a silent retreat, right? Some people go really intensely. You're going to eat, pray, love it, right? And go in a 10-day silent retreat. So, how are you going to create the space to listen to yourself and listen for what you're being called towards? For me, it was traveling again. Traveling has always helped me to get in touch with what I need. So, after the pandemic, I took a trip to Costa Rica in early 2022. And after a few years of no international travel for me, which was really hard, it really just helped me get in touch with what I needed and with my core self again. And I thought I was going to be able to carry that energy back over when I went back to work after like just an 8-day trip, right? And after a few weeks, it was really clear that I was being called towards something else. Towards what? I didn't know. But I knew I needed to create the space for myself to be able to figure out what that was. So I talked with everybody I knew. I tried to figure out how to do that. And I got some advice from a really, really wise friend. And she said, "Are you sure you can't leave your job?" And that just encouraged me. Oh, okay. Let me just figure out. Maybe I could. And I was incredibly privileged and just did some calculations. And I was like, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And I decided what was most important for me at that time was to create that space. I absolutely needed that space. And I took time for silence and I napped a lot and I unraveled my identity from my professional title that I held before. And it was one of the hardest periods of my life. It was also one of the best periods of my life, but it was incredibly challenging. But I needed to take more space and create more silence in my life to be able to listen to what I was being called towards. So during that time, I worked with a coach. That was incredibly powerful. And I started a journal practice. And that was actually from working with a different coach, too. That journal practice that I do to this day. And I'm not talking about, my fourth grade diary of today I did this and I really have a crush on so and so. The journal practice that I started was really around gratitude and manifestation and imagining what it would feel like when I've figured all this out and what it would feel like when I have that clarity and what it would feel like when I have that dream life. So journaling has helped me really get in touch with what I was being called towards. So that was step 2. Listen to what you're being called towards. Step 3, embrace your new future. So to do this, and this goes along with the journaling, visualize yourself on your new path. Start taking small risks and building your confidence. And then those bigger risks are going to seem more attainable. So you might have this dream life and you're like, I could never do that because it is so far from what I'm doing now. Start with something really, really, really small. And then I encourage you to talk to other people, and that will help you start to imagine what's possible. That's what did it for me, honestly. I just talked to more and more and more and more people, and it really helped me understand, life could look like this. And I had never thought that that would be a potential path for me. One of the things I'll share that I've learned is you can actually take any interest or hobby or passion and make it into a career. And what you should do is look to others for inspiration and then work on your mental fitness and your mindset. And then in order to feel confident, take risks. If you are not feeling confident, you just have to take a tiny risk. For me, it was improv. I took an improv class and that really helped me to build confidence and to play and to just have fun. And it helped me to imagine something else for my life. What that was, I didn't know. But by building that muscle of risk taking, it helped me build the confidence and to really embrace my new future. So that's number 3. Embrace your new future and really start to visualize yourself, start to build that muscle of risk-taking and confidence. Step number 4 in your beginner's guide to redrawing your path: make a plan to get to your new path. Vision boards do not happen by accident. I have made the mistake of thinking that putting it together was enough. I've made vision boards in the past. I put it together, but it wasn't happening, right? That is not enough to just put it together and like, bingo.
Bingo!
I had that realization this past year. So in order to make that plan to get to your new path, all you need to do is identify your first step, even if it's a baby step. So that's going to help you build your confidence, and write down what you need to do to make it happen. And then I invite you to get serious about it. Quarterly planning, monthly planning, weekly planning, whatever that looks like for you, start to chunk it out and work towards it. This has been revelatory for me. Many of you listening might not be like that surprised that, oh, actually quarterly planning about life, not about work, really helps you meet your goals. But surprise, surprise, it does. So once you have that vision, or once you've identified that first step, just prioritize, right? For me, as chronic overachiever, I tend to want to take everything on at once. So you have to prioritize. I'm saying this as much for myself as I am for you, because I need to hear it over and over, but prioritize and be realistic, but really concrete. When I first started quarterly planning, one of my goals was have some effing fun. Honestly, like, this was my quarterly goal, was just go have some effing fun. I knew I wanted to create more joy in my life and more fun. And so what I did for that quarter was I identified ways that I was going to have fun in that quarter. And then I moved from there to setting some business goals, even if I didn't have clarity quite yet on my business. But I set some business goals for myself. And then last year, I even set a goal. I realized, wait, like, the part in my life that's missing is I've always really wanted a partner. And so I set a goal there, and I ended up falling in love. I put myself out there, honestly, and fell in love. And like, that could have been because of the quarterly plan. It could have been luck. But I like to believe that because I was intentional and my current partner was intentional, that we ended up finding each other. And I think that's a really, really beautiful thing. So one of the things to know about quarterly planning, I did not end up doing everything that I put in my quarterly plan every quarter. Sometimes I carried it over. Sometimes I decided, you know what, this isn't important to me anymore. But by sticking with this process, I learned what was realistic, and I've gotten better every single quarter. So I'm now on my 4th cycle of quarterly planning. I do want to shout out Allie Bob from my first episode and the Best Ever program, because that is what has helped me to learn this process and to be accountable to it. But because of quarterly planning, I've built a more consistent business. I've prioritized fun. I changed my mindset, and I built really, really critical self-care routines. And I found love. Like, these are all ever evolving, right? But like, I don't know that they all would have happened had I just created my vision board and let it sit. One thing to know: beginner's guide to redrawing your path. Redrawing your path is not just going to happen miraculously. When I moved back to the US in 2011, my goal was I'm going to move abroad as soon as possible again. And I set that goal and I let it sit there and sit there and sit there. And there were other factors. I had a ton of student loans. There were a lot of factors, but I let that goal sit there. And it wasn't until I had a wake-up call last year on a coaching call that I was like, wait a minute, this has been my goal the entire time, and I have taken 0 steps towards it. So redrawing your path is not just going to happen miraculously. You really need to be intentional. You need to take risks. You need to have faith. And you need to be willing to learn through the journey. So those are the 4 steps in the beginner's guide to redrawing your path. 1, understand when your body is telling you that something must change. 2, listen for what you're being called towards, create space. 3, embrace your new future. And 4, make a plan to get to your new path.
Yay!
I hope this is helpful. Really excited to hear what you think. Let me know if it's helpful and let me know if you make any changes. Thanks, y'all. Hey, thanks for listening to Redraw Your Path with me, Lindy Bilzen. If you liked the episode, please share and subscribe. That helps more listeners find me. And don't be shy, reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to know what resonated with you. Can't wait to share more inspiring stories with you. See you next week.